Ace, how's it going there today?
That's refreshing. I don't have to worry about how my hair looks.
The hair from Ace Frehley always looks great, but actually, is it Frehley or Frehley? I've never heard it corrected.
Frehley.
Okay, now that I know that, is your day going so
Frehley.
far besides your hair?
Well, listen to the way Paul Stanley pronounces it on the live record.
No.
Ace Frehley, he can tell.
Exactly. Well, congratulations on your great new record, Origins Volume 2. It's great to see that the series is continuing. Did you record it as a traditional album, or did you do it one or two tracks at a time?
Well, I recorded it the way I've been recording all my records. You know, I have a real simple process. Pretty much it's just me and an engineer in the studio, and we start with a click track, and we start overdubbing parts. You know, I play a lot of the, I play most of the instruments and do the vocals, and then we bring in a drummer at the end to add the drums, and then send it off to the mixer. That's pretty much the way I record.
If I look at a song like Space Truck, in which you did a great job with, you did all the singing, the guitar work, and the bass work, and you just mentioned that you get a drummer. Can you actually drum competently?
Not really. I'm good for about 10 minutes, and then I just poop out. You know, it's really a physical, taxing job. I don't know how drummers play for 2 hours. But, you know, speaking of Space Trucking, you know, my good friend Rob Sabino plays keyboards on that. And we actually tracked that years ago up in Turlock, California at the Creation Lab, a studio my good friend Matt Swanson owns. And it didn't make it on Origins Volume 1, but, you know, I had it kicking around. I redid the guitar solo. I redid the vocal, tightened up the arrangement, and it worked for Origins Volume 2. Same thing with the Animals song. That was recorded at the Creation Lab as well.
Wow, so does this mean that you already have stuff recorded or at least thought out for a Volume 3?
I don't have anything recorded for Volume 3 yet, but, you know, I haven't looked.
Well,
Maybe some old demos lying around. I don't know. You know, I have so much stuff, and, you know.
Well, I can imagine getting...
One day at a time, you know, it happens. I don't really stress about it, you know. Things just fall into place as they do. Somebody said to me, did you pick all the songs prior to the beginning of the recording process? And I said, no, it just happened organically. One song after another, you know, if that worked out well, I think of another song that was good, and, you know, that's how we did it, one by one.
But in seeing that this is a Volume 2 and you have the Ace Frehley Origins.com domain and all that, it sounds like that this is a series that, if you wanted, could go on for the whole rest of your career in life.
I guess so. I mean, they're planning Origins Volume 3, you know. 75% of the interviewers so far, about 75% of them have you know, expressed that they like this album better than the first one. So I hope the fans agree with them. You know, I'm hoping.
Well, while this is going on, are you also writing new material? I really like the one before this because you really showed a new side of yourself with Bronx Boy and tracks like that. Yeah.
Well, Bronx Boy was a collaboration between me and my friend Ronnie Mancuso. My friend who lives in Las Vegas. He has like the best Italian restaurant in Las Vegas, the Bootlegger. I'll give him a little plug. But he wrote the music for that, and I wrote the lyrics pretty much. I mean, I changed the music a little from his original arrangement, but he brought over a demo with a different title, and I just rewrote all the lyrics. You know, I thought my lyrics were more appropriate for the record.
Is it true that the lyrics
but,
involved...
actually, one of my favorite songs on that album, Spaceman, is the remake of the Eddie Money song.
Right. I Want to Go Back by Eddie
I Want to
Money.
Go Back. I'm really, really happy with the way that turned out, vocally and musically.
Did you know Eddie, or was it purely a case where you heard the song late one night and went, that's a track I got to do?
Well, I was, I was sitting in bed with my girlfriend in California listening to videos. Sometimes we just go on YouTube and listen to old songs, classic rock songs, and I listened to that Eddie Money song. I Want to Go Back, and I picked up an acoustic guitar I had laying by the bed, and I started figuring out the chords, and I said to her, I could do a good job on this song. It's in my range, and I like the message. It made me think about my old days at high school, going back. And, I'm, like I said, it's one of my favorite songs on the record. It's written really well, that song.
Well, one of my favorite things about you is how you have a vintage New York persona. There's nothing about me that's New York, even though I've lived here my whole life. But in the case of you, you're a classic New Yorker, yet you've always embraced new technology. You were one of the first people I'm aware of to really get behind Apple computers from the recording sense. What was it that kind of got you to realize that you needed to follow trends instead of just sticking with the same 2-inch reel and all that stuff?
Well, it wasn't a matter of following trends. My father was an electrical engineer, so it was already, in my DNA, to be technically inclined. When the first computers were invented, I got them and essentially just started, I had Photoshop 1.0, that's how far I go back. A good friend of mine, Kevin Martorana, who had his own security computer firm, taught me how to do 3D animation. I did the 3D animation for the Kiss reunion tour, where the 4 solo album covers morphed from one into the other.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Well, I don't like to brag about the stuff I do, and Paul and Jean very rarely give me credit for a lot of the things I do. So,
well,
I designed the Kiss logo, so on and so forth.
So you're somebody that's talented not just as a songwriter, but as a graphic artist and a computer-related designer. Does that mean that you're really creating stuff all the time, even if people aren't going to see it?
Well, I used to create a lot more animations than I do now because I just don't have the time. Before I got signed to eOne, and when I didn't have a record contract and wasn't touring, I had a lot more free time to experiment with computers and animation, some of my animation programs that I played with. But I don't have that much time anymore. If I'm not recording, I'm touring. If I'm not touring, I'm out fishing or on vacation, or I like to go to Vegas and gamble, pull off some steam, shop. I like driving sports cars, So,
Well, nobody's really happy with COVID, to say the least. But has it given you the chance to do a little bit of a life reset and reprioritize things?
Well, it's interesting. I broke up with my girlfriend in California a year ago, and then I met a gal from New Jersey, and I spent some time with her when I was doing East Coast shows, and eventually I decided to move in with her in New Jersey, and then eventually we decided to get a house together, and we just moved into a new house, and I got a 3,000 square foot basement with 9-foot ceilings. So I'm really excited about building a real professional recording studio down there. Because every place I've lived, I've always had a home studio to work out of. So, things are looking up, and it's great to be back on the East Coast because I love the seasons. And on the West Coast, you just don't really get Christmas You don't get Halloween or the fall. The trees don't change color like they do here. It's nice to be back east.
Looking at the whole big picture and spectrum of things, you're at a point of your career where you're a rock and roll Hall of Famer, people have covered your music, etc. Are you actually turning down a lot more than you're doing at this point? I would have to imagine that's the case.
Well, it happens from time to time. You know, there's only so many hours in the day, and sometimes, I'm not a kid anymore. I'm 69 years old, so I can't do as much as I used to do in my 20s and 30s. So, I do turn down things, but there's a lot of things that are still on my bucket list. Like, I'd like to do a score for a film. I want to do the Ace Frehley story. I want to do a movie about my life. I think it's real interesting. Poor kid from the Bronx, but makes it into helps form one of the biggest rock groups in the world. It's an amazing story, my life story. I've never been to Egypt. I want to go see the pyramids. I find the pyramids at Giza really fascinating. But right now it's, the State Department will recommend Americans not to go over with the terrorists and everything. It's not a healthy place to be.
Yeah, well said there. For you, as somebody who's been doing interviews for like 45 plus years now, does that process of promoting yourself get easier with time?
No, it's easier because most of you guys ask the same questions. So I have the answers pat, at least 50, 60, 70% of the questions are all the same. So the answer's already in my head. So, I don't have to think too hard to come up with an answer. They're easier now because I'm more confident with who I am. I produce my own records, and I'm just more comfortable with me. I'm coming up on 14 years sober, September 15th, and my life is just taking a turn for the better.
Well, 3 quick questions, and then you're a free man, and I'm keeping you well under the 20-minute time window here. And the first one is, do you have a TV show or film recommendation that you can pass along? Because like everybody, you've been inside a lot more these past few months than previously.
Well, I don't really watch TV, because I hate commercials. So pretty much it's either Netflix or Amazon for me. And, there's a lot of great movies out there, classic sci-fi, my recommendation is Forbidden Planet. I love the new Avengers Endgame film. And, there's a great movie that a lot of people aren't familiar with Blake Lively called The Age of Adeline, which is really a sci-fi love story that, never really got the recognition I thought it deserved. And the new Invisible Man movie's pretty good.
Well, I'm going to have some new things to add to my list. Second question, you were part of maybe my favorite late night interview in history, the Tom Snyder interview. I'm sure that was painful at the time, but now do you look back on that fondly or in a positive way?
Well, it's a funny interview. I was slightly inebriated, but I had fun with Tom, and Tom had fun with me, and I pretty much upstaged the rest of the guys in the band, especially Gene, who didn't seem too thrilled about it. But it was a live show. There was nothing he could do about it. And I was really nervous about doing that show because it was live, and I'd never done live TV before, and I know it was a popular show and millions of people were going to be watching. So I drank a little too much and got silly, but it ended up working out for the better, luckily.
Absolutely. It still holds up as great television. So my last question, besides buying Origins Volume 2, Ace, any last words for the kids?
Well, I just like to to thank all my fans for supporting me over the years, through the good years, through the bad years, and everything in between, you know. And I hope they enjoy this new record as much as I do, because so far all the interviewers seem to like it. So hopefully they're going to like it as well.
Thank you for your time. Looking forward to seeing you again in New York when this all blows over. But keep up the great work you're doing.
Thanks so much. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Paltrocast.